Hey, kia ora, Markie here, sometimes known as the grizzled walrus of retroactive jealousy. And it's a retroactive jealousy video we've got today for you. It's going to be an especially shaky camera because what I need to do is look at my screen. Because we've talked about retroactive jealousy from lots of different angles. I mean, I try and cover it from as many different angles and look at it in as many different ways as possible. But you know, in particular, we've looked at obviously from the point of view of sufferers, and also from the point of view of partners. But what about from the point of view of the public and onlookers, if you like, or people who become aware of retroactive jealousy from the outside? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today, and this has been prompted by a newspaper article, or I should say a kind of a website of a newspaper article where somebody's written into an agony column presenting as the partner of someone with retroactive jealousy. Okay, and I was alerted to this by somebody on one of the fora on retroactive jealousy. I can't remember who it was, but whoever that person was, thank you for posting that. That's been very enlightening. So what I want to do is actually go to this article. I'm going to read what the reader sent in and the answer from the agony aunt, and then we're going to look at some of the comments because people can comment on this. And actually, I think for me it's been quite shocking. Okay, so let's put it all into context. Okay, so first of all, welcome to my channel. This is the Mark the Demystifier and Retroactive Jealousy YouTube channel. So this is on YouTube. It's also you might see this on Patreon as well, because I have a Patreon channel. And we talk about a number of things on this channel, not just retroactive jealousy. So some of the videos are about retroactive jealousy, and some of the videos are about other things. So this is a pure RJ video. So if you're not following this channel for RJ, you probably wouldn't want to be watching this one unless you're curious. By all means, because it's, you know, the more people become aware of this stuff, the better. And clearly, from looking at this article, you know, I think it's the public need to be educated as well as sufferers. So let's crack straight into it. Before we do, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. If you haven't hit the like button, please hit the like button, and please consider signing up as a patron on Patreon, because that helps me put out more videos, and in time, with the right help, hopefully better quality videos. So okay, so the newspaper in question is The Sun. Okay, for those of you in the UK, you'll know instantly, you'll have an instant thought, an instant kind of opinion, impression come to mind when we mention The Sun. You know, it's something you'll be familiar with. The Sun, for those of you who are outside of the UK, is a nasty, nasty little newspaper that's written by intellectual journalists talking down to it's traditionally it was the kind of the working class newspaper, but I think that insults the working class, really. I think it's basically it's the newspaper that's read by people who are very low IQ. Okay, and I'm going to offend people by saying that, but that is the truth. Okay, I demystify things. Okay, so I speak truth. I don't, there's no point beating around the bush. So the Sun talks down to people. The language that it uses talks down to people. It spreads lots of prejudice, and it spreads lots of really unhelpful, nasty messages. So this is actually on their website. By the way, the Cockney rhyming slang for The Sun is the current bun as well, so I might refer it to the current bun. I can't help myself, sometimes I like saying the current bun. So the website, if you go on to it, I'll put a link below in the comments. It's full of kind of soft porn images, and so is the newspaper. The Sun was famous for. I'm not sure if tell me if you know more about the Sun than me, because obviously I don't read this atrocious newspaper. It was famous for having the topless model on page 3. I think the Sun was the first one to do it, and whether I can't remember whether they stopped it or whether they carried on with it. And this is a bugbear of mine, really. Is I've done a whole series on pornography, and I think there are some very serious concerns about pornography. By the other token, I'm not a Puritan, but it really bugs me when people insert soft porn into things that shouldn't really be pornographic. So if it's a newspaper, it shouldn't be soft porn. I think soft porn should be available as a soft porn, and people, when they want soft porn, they go somewhere for soft porn. It shouldn't bleed into other things. It shouldn't be used to sell things. It shouldn't be used, so it's very sexist, very misogynistic. It's just lots and lots of bad things. The Sun. I actually met somebody that worked for the Sun once. He's a lovely guy, but there we go. So enough about the Sun, because I could rant on about that for a long time. You probably heard me thumping the table then, table thumping around. So, okay, so I'm going to read you, agony column, she's called Deirdre. I don't know if there is actually a real Deirdre, but it's Dear Deirdre, which is kind of, I guess sounds good. For me, I think, for me, I'm feeling dear Deirdre. So, Dear Deirdre, okay. So this is the person that's writing in, which is a woman. Despite me always being faithful to my boyfriend, he is struggling to cope with my past. I don't want to lose him because of the thoughts in his head. We've been together for 2 years and have the best relationship imaginable. Now that's interesting. We'll come back to that. I'm just going to scroll down. Okay. It's only short. The only trouble is that I had sex with a lot of people before we met. I'm 31 and he's 28. He says he can't stop thinking about my past and has vivid images of me with other men. He's upset that he's thinking like this, and he's also upset that he missed out on doing the same. Sometimes he thinks it would be easier not to be with me. I try to understand his feelings, but it upsets me. Now that sounds to me like classic retroactive jealousy. Okay. So the first point to make is that I think people's perceptions of this will be strongly influenced by the fact that it's a guy, and what people aren't aware of is that retroactive jealousy affects women as much as it does men. Okay, so there's a couple of things here that are kind of, I'd say, quite universal to retroactive jealousy. So the best relationship imaginable. Okay, I've said in other videos, retroactive jealousy only strikes at good relationships. It doesn't strike at mediocre relationships. Okay, so that's interesting. So the second point is it's a common theme in retroactive jealousy that the partner has had more sex or more sexual experiences or more partners than the retroactive jealousy sufferer. But that's not textbook. There are many cases where actually the opposite is the case. Okay, so I wouldn't set too much store in that. I think that kind of distorts the picture a little bit. So sometimes he thinks it would be easier not to be with me. Yeah, it's such hell. People think that. And the other thing, vivid images of me with other men. The mental movies. Okay. So be sure to watch our video if you're a retroactive jealousy sufferer and you suffer with vivid mental movies, then we've got a video of the technique for getting rid of that. But this is a classic symptom of retroactive jealousy. Okay, and also there are some statements in here that this guy has got some awareness. He's upset that he's thinking like this. Okay, he's upset that he's thinking about this. So I think, probably the majority of people that suffer with retroactive jealousy just blame their partner, and I think probably a lot of abusive relationships have this retroactive jealousy component to them. They just blame and shame the partner. This is a guy that has some awareness that he doesn't want to be like that. Okay, so for me, obviously we don't know the full details, the full case study, but there's a lot of strong evidence here to suggest that this is retroactive jealousy, not something that looks like retroactive jealousy, but retroactive jealousy. So what does Deirdre say? Dear Deirdre, I bet it does. That's replying to it upsets me. Your past is part of the person you are and the person he loves. True, I haven't got a problem with that. You've been honest with him and he's had long enough to decide what he wants. Tell him that if loving you can't overcome his fear of missing out, then you're not right for him and he isn't the right man for you. Okay, this might give him the wake-up call that he needs. Okay, so I don't think she's given terrible advice here. I mean, there's a famous case of Mariella Frostrup doing in the same role as an agony aunt, absolutely tore somebody apart. So she hasn't done that, but I would say, I think there's probably if it's retroactive jealousy, is a very good indication that they're not the wrong people for each other. It's just that this guy has got a psychiatric condition which he needs treatment for and needs to work on. Okay, so that's the start of it. That's the Q&A from the actual agony aunt. Okay, so I'm going to pause here, and we're going to look at the comments that people have left in part 2, and they're really interesting. Okay, I think as to date, this came out I think about 2 days ago, and there are now 14 comments, including 3 of mine. And it's had my comments have had some likes but no responses. So just in the gap between watching this and part 2, which I'll shoot straight after, what I'd be interested is a little thought experiment is just to ask you to anticipate what people might say. bear in mind these are kind of sun readers, so they're not, you know, they're not going to come out with, they're not going to be kind of quoting, they're not going to be quoting erudite sources and research papers. So just how, you know, just if you can, even if you're happy to take time, just maybe take a piece of paper and write down maybe like five keywords of the kind of responses or the kind of flavour of the responses you think that people might give to this, okay? And then keep that handy, and then when I tell you what the responses are, you can, you know, it'd be interesting to see, you know, whether you were correct in your guesses. So what you might want to do as well before you watch part 2 is you might want to follow the link and log on so you can read along. And also bear in mind that you know, you may not be watching this video immediately after it's been shot, so there might be more comments on there. If you're an RJ sufferer or a partner of an RJ sufferer or a therapist that works with RJ, then I would actually urge you to join the discussion and put some kind of helpful comments on there, which is what I've tried to do. Because I think that's really what we need. Because if you think, you know, people out there with RJ who aren't aware that it's a thing, they're going to see this and they're going to see some of these comments, and they're going to be mortified. It's just going to make them feel 10 times worse. Okay. What I want to do is get the message out there that if you're suffering with this stuff, it's not, you're not a bad person. You're not an idiot. You're not, you know, you're not this terrible kind of judgmental sexist. You might appear that way, but you're suffering with an illness, okay, that can be treated. So, you know, although I can be quite stern and quite strong with what I say to RJ sufferers, you know, I have ultimate compassion, okay, because that's where I've come from myself, okay. So I will leave it there, and I will join you very, very soon, hopefully in part 2. You know, meet me on the other side of the comments. Bring you, Mario.